The galactic sovereignty had ruled the Milky Way for 40,000 years. 12 ancient alien races controlled everything. They owned the best planets. They made the laws. They decided who could travel through space and who could not. When humanity finally built their first ship that could travel faster than light, the sovereignty looked at them and laughed. Another primitive species, High Arbiter said during the council meeting. He was old beyond counting, his skin stretched over a skeletal frame, his 4 eyes glowing with boredom. Give them a small corner of space. Let them play with their little ships. They will never amount to anything. And so humanity received their place in the galaxy. It was not a good place. They got one colonial system far from the center of power. They were allowed to trade, but only on minor routes. Their military ships were restricted to Class 3 weapons, the weakest category allowed. The sovereignty did not even bother to watch them closely. Humans were not worth watching. 50 years passed. Captain stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, looking out at the stars. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and black hair tied back in a simple knot. Her uniform was plain, nothing fancy. The ship around her looked ordinary too. Just another human vessel, doing another boring patrol near the border of human space. "Captain," Lieutenant said from his station. He was tall and quiet, the kind of man who spoke only when necessary. "We have incoming 3 sovereignty inspection vessels." Nodded slowly, "Let them come." This happened often. The sovereignty liked to remind humans of their place. They would board human ships, search them, find nothing interesting, and leave with disappointed expressions. It was annoying but never complained. No human ever complained. The lead inspector was a creature called, with blue scales and a permanent sneer on his face. He walked through the horizon's edge like he owned it, his guards following behind him. "Your weapon systems," demanded, "show me." Pulled up the display. Class 3 pulse cannons, standard shields, nothing special. Laughed, 50 years in space and this is the best you can do. My personal yacht has better weapons. He looked at with contempt. How do you humans survive out here? Smiled politely, we manage. You are lucky the sovereignty protects you, said. Without us, you would be destroyed in a week. Yes, agreed, very lucky. And his team left soon after. When their ships jumped away, the bridge was silent for a long moment. I really hate that guy, muttered. I know, said. She turned to look at her crew. But we have our orders. Stay quiet, stay small. Let them believe what they want to believe. On the other side of human space, Ambassador sat in her office on Earth, reading reports. She was an elegant woman in her 60s, with streaks in her hair and a face that rarely showed emotion. She had been humanity's voice in the Galactic Council for 20 years. Her assistant knocked on the door. Ambassador, the annual review is ready. Took the tablet and scrolled through the data. Human population, 28 billion across 12 worlds. Official military, 200 ships, all Class 3. Trade relationships, minor but stable. Sovereignty assessment, no threat, no potential. Recommend continued restrictions. She smiled slightly at that last part. There was another report underneath, one that was not shared with the sovereignty. This one was marked with the highest security clearance. Opened it and read the real numbers. Hidden shipyards, 47. Ships under construction, 2,340. Combat-ready vessels, 10,847. Weapons classification, unknown to sovereignty systems. Soldier readiness, 99.7%. 50 years of pretending. 50 years of bowing and smiling and accepting every insult. 50 years of building in secret, training in secret, preparing for a day that hoped would never come. Her communicator beeped. It was Admiral, calling from the hidden command center beneath the Pacific Ocean. Ambassador, he said. His face was hard and serious as always. Our sensors are picking up something strange at the edge of the galaxy, something big. How big? We don't know yet, but it's not natural, and it's moving towards sovereignty space. Felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. Keep watching and keep our ships ready, but do not reveal anything, not yet. Understood. The call ended. Stood and walked to her window, looking out at the blue sky of Earth. Somewhere up there among the stars, something was coming. And when it arrived, the galaxy would learn what humanity really was. But not today. Today, humans were still the quiet ones, the weak ones, the species that everyone ignored. In the Galactic Council chamber, High Arbiter was giving a speech about the greatness of the sovereignty. He mentioned humans briefly, calling them a useful example of how even primitive species can find their place under our guidance. The other council members nodded in agreement. Some of them had never even met a human. Why would they? Humans were not important. Far away, on the bridge of the horizon's edge, Captain received a coded message from Earth Command. She read it once, then deleted it immediately. Her expression did not change, but her hands tightened slightly on the armrest of her chair. "Everything okay, Captain?" asked. "Everything is fine," said quietly, "for now." She looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, in the darkness between galaxies, something terrible was waking up, and when it arrived, humanity would have to make a choice. Keep pretending, or show the galaxy what 50 years of silence had really been about. Hope they would never have to choose, but deep in her heart she knew the truth. The storm was coming, and humanity would be ready. The swarm came from the darkness between galaxies. No one knew where they started or how long they had been traveling. They were not like any species the sovereignty had ever seen. They were part machine and part living creature, billions of them moving together with one mind, one hunger. They wanted to consume everything. The first world to fall was Prime, a beautiful planet with golden oceans and white cities. 5 billion people lived there. The sovereignty sent a defense fleet of 800 ships to protect it, that destroyed them in 3 hours. By the next morning, Prime was gone, not conquered, gone. They ate everything, the buildings, the people, even the rocks and water. They left nothing behind but empty space. High Arbiter watched the recordings with horror. His 4 eyes could not look away from the destruction. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "We are the sovereignty. We have ruled for 40,000 years." "They do not care about our history," his advisor said grimly. "They only care about feeding." 2 more core worlds fell in the next month. The sovereignty's greatest fleet met at the Crimson Nebula, a place where they thought they could win. They were wrong. The battle lasted 9 days. When it ended, every sovereignty ship was destroyed. 17 million soldiers died, and they kept coming. Panic spread across the galaxy. People began to flee, running from the center toward the outer rim, toward human space. Ambassador received the first wave of refugees with open arms. Millions of aliens who had once looked down on humans were now begging for shelter. She gave it to them without hesitation. "Why are you helping us?" a sovereignty official asked her, his voice shaking. "We treated your people badly for 50 years. Looked at him with calm eyes. "Because it is the right thing to do." On the horizon's edge, Captain watched the refugee ships arrive at human stations. Children of a dozen different species cried in their parents' arms. Elderly aliens who had never known fear were now terrified. The sovereignty had failed them. "Captain," said quietly, "we just received orders from Earth Command." Turned to him, "Show me." The message was short, only 3 sentences, but those 3 sentences changed everything. "Protocol Gentle is suspended, all restrictions lifted. Defend the refugees, show them what we are." Read the message twice. Then she stood up slowly and looked at her crew. They were all watching her, waiting. "It's time," she said. Down in the engineering section, Doctor was already working. She was a small woman with round glasses and messy hair, the kind of person who looked more comfortable in a laboratory than on a warship. But she knew exactly what was happening. "Begin the transformation," she said to her team. Unlock everything. Deep inside the horizon's edge, systems that had been sleeping for 50 years began to wake up. Hidden panels slid open, revealing weapons that the sovereignty did not know existed. The ship's reactor, which had been running at 3% power, started climbing higher and higher. Watched his tactical display change. The simple Class 3 weapons disappeared. In their place, something else appeared, something that made him smile for the first time in weeks. "Captain," he said, "full combat systems online. Weapons charged, shields at maximum." Nodded. "Good. Contact the other human ships in the sector. Tell them to do the same." Across human space, the same thing was happening. Ships that looked ordinary from the outside were transforming. Hidden armor plates locked into place. Secret weapon systems powered up. Civilian transports revealed that they were actually military vessels in disguise. In the Pacific Ocean Command Center, Admiral watched his screens fill with green lights. 10,000 ships reporting ready. 50 years of preparation, all coming together in a single moment. "Sir," his communications officer said, "High Arbiter is requesting to speak with Ambassador. He wants to ask for human military assistance." Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Tell the Ambassador to accept the call, but tell her to wait. Let him ask nicely." On the Galactic Council channel, his face appeared. He looked old and tired, nothing like the proud ruler who had dismissed humanity for so long. "Ambassador," he said slowly, "the sovereignty requests your help. We know your military is small. We know your weapons are limited, but perhaps you can help evacuate civilians. Perhaps you can." "High Arbiter," interrupted gently, "you seem to be confused about something." "What do you mean?" "Our military is not small. Our weapons are not limited." She leaned forward slightly. "We have been waiting for this moment for 50 years, and now, with your permission, we would like to show you what humanity is truly capable of." Stared at her. "I do not understand." "You will soon." The connection ended. Sat alone in his chamber trying to understand what had just happened. What did she mean? Humans were weak. Everyone knew that. He had seen their ships himself, their pathetic Class 3 weapons. At that exact moment, the first human battle group jumped into sovereignty space. 5 ships appeared from nowhere, decloaking in a flash of light that blinded every sensor in the system. The sovereignty admiral in that sector, a veteran named, looked at his tactical display and felt his blood go cold. The ships were huge, bigger than anything in the sovereignty fleet. Their designs were strange, covered in weapons that he could not identify. "What is that?" he whispered. His tactical officer checked and rechecked his readings. "Sir, I cannot classify those weapons. They do not match anything in our database. The power readings are impossible." On the lead ship, Captain sat in her command chair. The horizon's edge was no longer hiding. It had become what it was always meant to be. "All ships," she said calmly. "This is Captain. They are approaching the refugee convoy. 2 million civilians are counting on us." She paused. "Let's show this galaxy what happens when you threaten innocent people under human protection." The 5 ships moved forward as one, and somewhere in the darkness the swarm turned toward them, sensing new prey. They had no idea what was coming. The refugee convoy floated in space like a wounded animal. 200 transport ships carried 2 million aliens, mothers and children and elderly people who had lost everything. 12 sovereignty warships surrounded them, trying to protect them. But everyone knew the truth. When they arrived, those 12 ships would not be enough. Admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the darkness. His sensors showed the coming 800 of their twisted ships moving like a cloud of death. He had seen what they could do. He knew his ships could not win this fight. "Admiral," his officer said quietly, "we have less than 20 minutes before they reach us." "I know. Should we order an evacuation?" Shook his head. "There is nowhere to run. We will stand and fight. We will buy the civilians as much time as we can." He looked at his crew, all of them scared, all of them brave. "It has been an honor serving with you." Then something strange happened. 5 flashes of light appeared between the convoy and the swarm. 5 ships came out of nowhere, materializing from empty space. They were human ships, but they did not look like any human ships had ever seen. The horizon's edge was at the center. It was massive, 3 times the size of its flagship. Its hull was covered in weapon systems that glowed with blue energy. Around it, 4 other human ships took formation, all of them equally terrifying. His tactical officer was shaking as he read his display. "Sir, I am detecting weapons on those ships that I cannot identify. Power levels are. The numbers do not make sense." "What classification are their weapons?" asked. "Unknown, sir. Our systems cannot categorize them. They are beyond anything in our database." Captain's voice came through on all channels, calm and clear. "Sovereignty vessels, this is Captain of the human ship Horizon's Edge. Please move your ships behind our formation. We will handle this." Almost laughed. "Handle this? There are 800 ships coming, you have 5. "I am aware of the numbers, Admiral. Please move your ships. We do not want you caught in our firing solution." Something in her voice made obey. He ordered his 12 ships to fall back behind the human formation. From there, he watched what happened next. The swarm approached, hungry and confident. They had destroyed every fleet that faced them. 5 more ships meant nothing to them. They spread out, preparing to surround and consume. On the horizon's edge, Lieutenant watched his targeting display. 800 enemy ships, all locked in his sights. "Captain, they are in range." Fire said. What happened next would be talked about for 1,000 years. The horizon's edge opened up with weapons that the galaxy had never seen. Beams of white energy cut through space, each one perfectly aimed. Ships exploded by the dozens. The other 4 human ships joined in, their weapons creating a wall of destruction that nothing could pass through. They tried to adapt. They changed formation, tried to flank, tried to overwhelm with numbers. It did not matter. Every time they moved, the human ships were already there. Every shot the humans fired found its target. It was not a battle, it was a lesson. Watched with his mouth open. His tactical officer had stopped trying to make sense of the readings. They just stared at the display as the numbers changed. 800 ships, then 600, then 400. "This is impossible," whispered. "This is completely impossible." Doctor was in the engineering section of the Horizon's Edge, monitoring the ship systems. Everything was running perfectly. The quantum state reactor that powered the ship was operating at only 40%. They did not even need full power to win this fight. "Energy levels stable," she reported. "All systems green. We can keep this up for hours." On the bridge, Never lost her calm expression. She had trained for this moment her entire life. Every human soldier had. They knew war better than anyone in the galaxy because they had almost destroyed themselves with it. That knowledge, that terrible experience, had made them into something new. Captain said, "Enemy numbers down to 100. They are attempting to retreat." "Do not let them," ordered. "They will return with more if we let them escape." The human ships moved forward, chasing down the remaining vessels. In the end, not a single one survived. 800 ships destroyed in 47 minutes. The human fleet had not lost anyone. When it was over, contacted the Horizon's Edge directly. His voice was shaking. "Captain, what are you? What is humanity?" Considered the question carefully before answering. "We are what 50 years of patience and preparation made us, Admiral. We were never weak. We were waiting." "But why hide this power? You could have ruled the galaxy." "Because ruling was never our goal. We wanted peace. We hoped we would never have to show anyone what we could really do." She paused. "But when innocent lives are threatened, when children are in danger, we do not hesitate. This is what humanity is." The refugee convoy was saved. 2 million lives that would have been lost were now safe under human protection. News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light. The stories were hard to believe. 5 human ships destroying 800, weapons that could not be classified, technology that seemed like magic. High Arbiter received the reports in his chamber. He read them 3 times, unable to accept what he was seeing. For 50 years he had looked at humanity and seen nothing. They had bowed to every restriction. They had accepted every insult. They had seemed so harmless. But they were never harmless. They were never weak. They had been hiding, and now the mask had finally fallen. "What have we done?" whispered to himself. "What have we been living next to all these years?" He did not know the full answer yet, but he was about to find out. The Galactic Council was demanding answers. An ambassador was ready to give them. The Galactic Council chamber was silent. Representatives from all 12 sovereignty species sat in their seats, staring at the human woman who stood alone in the center of the room. Ambassador looked small compared to some of the aliens around her, but she did not seem small. She seemed like the most dangerous person in the room. High Arbiter spoke first. His voice echoed through the chamber, filled with anger and fear. "Ambassador, for 50 years humanity has been part of this sovereignty. For 50 years we believed you were a minor species with limited capabilities. Now we discover that you have been hiding your true power from us." He leaned forward, his 4 eyes burning. "Explain yourself." Did not look away from his gaze. "What would you like me to explain, High Arbiter?" "Everything, your hidden ships, your secret weapons, your lies." "We never lied to you." Slammed his hand on his chair. "You told us you only had 200 military ships." "No," said calmly. "You told us we could only have 200 military ships, so we registered 200. You never asked about the rest." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Aliens shouted at each other and at. She stood there quietly and waited for them to calm down. When the noise finally stopped, she continued, "You want to understand why we hid our power? Very well, I will tell you. But first, you need to understand our history." She pressed a button on her device. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber showing images of Earth, beautiful forests, blue oceans, cities full of life. "This is our home world," said. "This is what it looks like now. But 130 years ago, it looked very different." The hologram changed. Now it showed destruction, cities in flames, mushroom clouds rising over continents, dead bodies covering the ground. The aliens watched in silence. "We call it the last war," said. "It lasted 7 years. We fought each other with weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. When it ended, 4 billion humans were dead. Half of our planet was poisoned. We almost ended our own species." She let the images stay on the screen for a long moment. "After the last war, we made a promise. We would never again use our full military power unless there was no other choice. We would learn to be patient. We would learn to control our strength, because we learned something terrible about ourselves." She looked directly at. "Humans are very good at war, too good. It is not a gift, it is a curse." Admiral's face appeared on another screen, joining the meeting from Earth. He was an old soldier with hair and tired eyes, eyes that had seen too much death. "When we met the sovereignty 50 years ago," said, "we could have fought you. We could have demanded equal treatment, but we remembered our history. We remembered what happened when we let our anger control us." He shook his head slowly. "So we chose another path. We called it Protocol Gentle. We would appear weak. We would accept your restrictions. We would build our strength in secret, but only for defense, only for emergencies." "You call this an emergency?" Another council member asked angrily. "You have been deceiving us for generations." "Yes," agreed, "we have, and I am sorry for that. But ask yourself this. In 50 years of deception, did humanity ever attack anyone? Did we ever threaten anyone? Did we ever try to take what was not ours?" The chamber was quiet. We did not hide our power because we wanted to conquer you, said. We hid it because we were afraid of ourselves. Every human child learns about the last war. Every human soldier trains not just to fight, but to understand the cost of fighting. We carry the weight of 4 billion deaths with us always. His voice was quieter now. You are saying that you held back your power to protect us. To protect everyone, including ourselves, stepped closer to him. High Arbiter, you have called humans primitive for 50 years. You have looked down on us. You have restricted us and insulted us. And every time we smiled and accepted it. Do you know why? No. Because your insults did not hurt us, your restrictions did not weaken us, and your opinion of us did not matter. What mattered was keeping the peace. What mattered was making sure no one had to die. Her voice softened. We have already lost 4 billion of our people to war. We did not want anyone else to lose the same. The chamber was completely silent now. Some of the aliens were looking at differently, not with anger anymore, with something that looked almost like respect. Sat back in his chair. For the first time in 40,000 years, he did not know what to say. He had lived so long, seen so much, ruled so many, but he had never met a species like this. A species so powerful that they scared themselves. A species that chose weakness to protect others from their strength. What do you want from us now? He finally asked. You have shown your power, the still threaten us. What is humanity's price for helping us? Smiled slightly. We do not want anything, High Arbiter. We are not helping you for payment or power. We are helping you because innocent people are dying. She gestured toward the images of the refugee convoy, the millions of lives that human ships had saved. That is who we are. We protect people, all people, even people who treated us badly. She turned to address the entire council. Humanity is ready to fight not for glory, not for territory, not for revenge. We will fight because it is right. When the war is over, we will go back to our corner of space. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We just want to make sure no one else has to experience what we experienced. Admiral nodded on his screen. The human fleet is mobilizing. 10,000 ships will be ready within the week. We are placing them under joint command with sovereignty forces. This is not humanity's war alone. It belongs to all of us. Looked at the old human admiral, then at ambassador. For 50 years he had thought humans were nothing. Now he understood the truth. They were not young and primitive. They were old and wise, old in suffering, wise in the ways of destruction. You truly do not want power? Asked one more time. No, said. We want something more important. We want a galaxy where children do not have to be afraid. We want a future where no one has to learn what we learned. She paused. We want peace, real peace, the kind that lasts. The council voted that day to accept human help. It was not a hard decision. What choice did they have? They were coming, and humanity was the only hope. But as the meeting ended, every alien in that chamber knew that the galaxy had changed forever. They had lived next to a sleeping giant for 50 years, and now that giant was awake. They could only pray it would go back to sleep when the war was over. The war against the lasted 8 months. In the history books of 1,000 worlds, those 8 months would be remembered as the time when humanity showed the galaxy what they truly were. Admiral took command of the combined fleet. Human ships and sovereignty ships flew together for the first time, and the difference between them was painful to see. Sovereignty vessels were beautiful and ancient, built with 40,000 years of tradition. Human ships were brutal and efficient, built for only one purpose: war. Captain led the advance force. The horizon's edge was always at the front of every battle, always the first to face the enemy. Her crew had become legends across the galaxy. Lieutenant, who could track 1,000 targets at once and never miss. Doctor, whose weapons turned ships into dust. And herself, calm and steady no matter how terrible the fighting became. They did not understand what was happening. They had consumed hundreds of worlds. They had destroyed the greatest fleets in the galaxy. But these new enemies were different. These enemies did not run. These enemies did not make mistakes. These enemies fought like war was the only thing they knew. Because for humanity it was. One by one, the positions fell. Human soldiers landed on occupied worlds and freed the survivors. They fought for 72 hours without rest, something that seemed impossible to the other species. But humans were not like other species. Their bodies had been enhanced over generations. Their minds had been trained since childhood. They were not natural warriors. They had made themselves into warriors through pain and sacrifice. Ambassador watched the war from Earth, coordinating with the Galactic Council. Every day, more refugees arrived in human space. Every day, more alien leaders contacted her to express their shock and gratitude. They could not believe what they were seeing. The species they had dismissed for 50 years was saving them all. Ambassador, one of them said during a call, I need to apologize. I was one of the council members who voted to restrict humanity. I thought we were protecting the galaxy from you, but we were wrong, so wrong. Smiled gently. There is no need to apologize. You made the decision you thought was right. That is all anyone can do. The final battle came at the, if you could call it that. It was a massive structure floating in the darkness between galaxies, larger than some moons. At its center lived the Queen, the mind that controlled the entire swarm. Kill the Queen and the would fall. The human dreadnought Eternal Dawn led the assault. It was the largest ship humanity had ever built, 3 kilometers long, carrying weapons that could crack planets. Admiral himself commanded it, though he was old and tired and wanted nothing more than for the fighting to end. They defended their queen with everything they had. Millions of ships swarmed around the human fleet, trying to overwhelm them through sheer numbers. But the human ships held their formation. They had been waiting for this moment for 50 years. They were not going to fail now. Captain flew the horizon's edge into the heart of the enemy formation. All ships, she broadcast. This is Captain. Today we end this war. Today we show the galaxy that darkness cannot win against those who refuse to give up. Fight well, fight hard, and remember why we fight. The battle lasted 14 hours. It was the most terrible fighting anyone had ever seen. Ships exploded by the thousands. Space itself seemed to burn with weapon fire. But slowly, steadily, the human fleet pushed forward. Doctor had prepared something special for the Queen. A bioweapon designed to target only organic material. It had taken 30 years to develop, created in secret just in case humanity ever needed it. Now, as the Eternal Dawn approached the Queen's structure, activated it. The weapon spread through like a wave. Wherever it touched, died. Their ships went silent. Their defenses stopped working. The Queen herself let out a psychic scream that echoed across the galaxy as she felt her children dying. And then it was over. The swarm was destroyed. The war was won. In the silence that followed, Captain opened a channel to every ship in the fleet, human and alien alike. Her voice was tired but steady. We spent 50 years pretending to be less than we are, she said. Hoping we would never need to show the galaxy what we could do. But when children needed protection, when worlds were burning, we remembered who we are. We are humanity, and we do not let innocent people die. The Galactic Council offered humanity a seat of honor, a place among the ruling species. Admiral declined. We do not want to rule, he told them. We never wanted to rule. We just want to make sure no one else has to suffer like we suffered. Ambassador delivered the final message to the galaxy. Humanity will return to our corner of space now. We will continue to trade, to talk, to be good neighbors. But we will also continue to watch. And if anyone threatens innocent lives again, we will be there. This is our promise. The years passed. The galaxy healed. Species that had once looked down on humanity now spoke of them with respect and a little fear. Human space remained modest. They never expanded aggressively. They never demanded power or tribute. They just lived quietly, building their worlds, raising their children. But everyone knew the truth. Somewhere in the outer rim, humanity was watching. 10,000 ships waited in hidden shipyards. Millions of soldiers trained for wars they hoped would never come. And deep beneath the Pacific Ocean on Earth, Admiral's successor monitored the galaxy, ready to wake the sleeping giant if necessary. 100 years after the war, a young alien child asked her mother about humans. Are they really as scary as everyone says? Her mother thought carefully before answering. They are not scary because they want to hurt anyone. They are scary because they could hurt everyone, but they choose not to. They learned long ago that power without wisdom leads to destruction, so they hide their power and share their wisdom instead. Will they ever fight again? I hope not, but if someone threatens innocent people, if someone tries to destroy what is good in this galaxy, then yes, they will fight again. She held her child close. And when they do, you will understand why every species in the galaxy has learned the same lesson. What lesson? The mother looked up at the stars, toward the distant corner of space where humanity lived their quiet lives. Never wake the sleeping giant. Far away on Earth, Captain, now Admiral, stood in a garden and watched the sunset. She was old now, her black hair turned, her sharp eyes softer than they used to be. The war was a lifetime ago, but she still remembered every moment of it. Her granddaughter ran through the garden, laughing at something. The sound made smile. This was why they had fought. This was why they had hidden their power for so long, for moments like this, for children who could laugh without fear. Grandmother, the little girl asked, were you really a hero? Knelt down and looked into her granddaughter's eyes. I was a soldier, little one. I did what I had to do so that you could grow up safe. But the real heroes are the people who build peace, the people who choose kindness over strength. Is that what humanity does? It is what we try to do, every single day. The sun set over Earth, painting the sky in colors of gold and red. Somewhere in the galaxy, species were living their lives, raising their families, building their futures. They were free to do so because humanity had protected them. And humanity would continue to protect them, not because they wanted power, not because they wanted glory, but because they had learned, through 4 billion deaths and a century of silence, that true strength was not about destruction. True strength was about protecting what mattered. The galaxy slept peacefully that night, and in the shadows, humanity watched over them. Always ready, always waiting, always hoping they would never have to wake up again. But if they did, the galaxy knew what would happen. Humanity would rise, and nothing in the universe would be able to stop them.